Hello comrades, you're watching RedIvanAirsoft, and today we'll talk about uniforms and equipment of the 1st Cavalry Division during the Vietnam War, specifically 1969-1970. And as always, I want to begin this video saying thank you to Evgeny Chugunov and administration of the website webgear.com for their help with materials and pictures. If you want to know more about any item used during the Vietnam War, I would highly recommend to visit webgear.com. Link will be in the description. Also on this channel we already have several videos dedicated to specific elements of equipment used during the Vietnam War, so I will refer you to those videos for more details. And we will begin our conversation with helmet. As an air mobile unit, 1st Cavalry Division should have been issued with M1C helmets. And once again I should mention one of my favorite movies, We Were Soldiers. This is one of the best movies when it comes to uniforms and equipment, and all soldiers in this movie equipped with M1C helmet as they supposed to. However, even this movie has some minor mistakes. But We Were Soldiers movie is dedicated to the earlier stage of the war, while we are talking about later period. And speaking about 1969-1970, I cannot guarantee that all cavalry soldiers had M1C helmets, because by that time chin cap and chin strap were rarely used, and because of this it is hard to determine what helmet do you see on the pictures, because there are no other big differences between M1 and M1C. Technically, air mobile units should be supplied with airborne helmets, but I cannot guarantee that this was always the case. Also, they carried some stuff on their helmets, such as serration spoon or P38 can opener, multiple pins, like this smiley face you see here. Also, it could be insect repellent, also known as bug juice, or oiler or cigarettes to protect them from getting wet. Or some other stuff. Also, I forgot to mention that we will build our kit referring to the lower officer, such as lieutenant. So, of course, officers never wore some stuff like this on their helmet. So, it is here right now just for demonstrational purposes, and when we'll see the complete overview of the kit, I will of course remove this stuff from the helmet. And next step is our boonie hat. By 1969-1970 this was the main hat used by the 1st Cavalry Division, and this stupid baseball cap was rarely used by that time. Uniforms. On this channel we already have a video dedicated to all uniforms used by US Armed Forces during the Vietnam War, so I encourage you to watch that video. Here I will only mention that by late 60s, early 70s, main uniform of the US Army was tropical combat uniform in color OG-107. Most of the time 4th and 5th type of jacket was issued, and 4th, 5th and 6th type of pants, like you see here. Few words about patches. In late 60s, early 70s, only subdued patches were used by 1st Cavalry Division. So forget about beautiful yellow patch. It does not provide enough masking features. Also, 1/3 of troops did not wear patches at all. That's why on my uniform you don't see any patches. This uniform was worn with olive t-shirt. And now you see black trousers belt used during the Vietnam War. Interestingly, during the Second World War this trousers belt was issued only to officers, while in Vietnam it was general issue. This particular one is the reproduction. And also socks. These are original Vietnam era socks, slightly faded but still in good condition. Since for reenactment purpose you need more than one pair, I also use regular modern socks, which are pretty similar to this, and I can highly recommend them. Boots. By 1969-1970, 3rd generation jungle boots with both Panama sole or Vibram sole were used. Load-bearing equipment. Interestingly, in late 60s, early 70s, soldiers of the 1st Cavalry Division rarely used load-carrying systems, and most of the time they could be seen wearing bandoliers. Usually it was 2-3 bandoliers instead of any pistol belts or any LCE. and pouches, every time they were used, were attached to the backpack. But since there are some pictures featuring loadout carrying equipment, and mostly these are pictures of officers and sergeants, I also carry my LCE. And here there is an interesting thing. On one hand, commanders always try to look similar to regular soldiers, because as you all know, on the battlefield, commander, radio man, machine gunner and grenadier are the highest priority targets. But at the same time, their look is always sharper and more organized, and I think the logic is like, okay, we need to blend with these guys to a certain extent, but this disorder is too much. And that's why on most pictures of officers and sergeants you see them carrying proper LCE. In my case, this is the set of the second generation M1956 loadout carrying equipment. Second generation was issued since 1961. Basically, we already discussed this in details in my earlier video about LURP loadout, so watch that video if you want to know more. There we discussed everything pouch by pouch. Also by 1969-1970, units of the 1st Cavalry Division used certain elements of M1967 equipment. This was more modern set of equipment made of nylon, like this canteen cover you see here, with plastic snaps. On my loadout carrying equipment you can see two magazine pouches. Since they are too deep for the standard M16 20 round magazines, I have a pair of socks on the bottom of each pouch. And these are modern production socks we discussed earlier. Also there is a compass / first aid kit pouch with first aid kit. Also I carry two plastic canteens in M1956 canteen covers, but more you have the better. I do not carry canteen cups, but this is how the proper canteen cup looks like. And also there is a pouch for two pistol magazines. Pistols were issued to officers, sergeants, machine gunners, grenadiers and medics. In my case, this is the Airsoft replica of the M1911 pistol made by Tokyo Marui and black leather M1916 holster that was issued during the Vietnam War. Also, some additional equipment, including magazines, could be carried in the Claymore bag. And of course, Claymore itself could be carried in this bag as well. Recon platoons also use Chinese Chicom. However, I would not refer to recon platoons since it is completely different kitchen. Entrenching tool. A new collapsible M1967 entrenching tool was issued since late 60s and of course was used in progressive 1st Cavalry Division. This e-tool is produced in 1969 and this nylon case is produced in 1970. And of course, older versions of the entrenching tools were used side by side with the new one until the end of the war. Knives and bayonets. Of course, the most common thing was standard M16 bayonet. However, surprisingly, on most pictures, not each and every soldier is equipped with one. Maybe some of them just didn't want to carry one. Also, less often, Ontario pilot survival knife could be seen. Every pilot in Vietnam, including 1st Cavalry's helicopter crew, was equipped with one. These knives were often used by LURPs and other personnel, including officers. That's why I carry one of them. This model is produced since 1969, and since that time there was no changes implemented. Ontario knives were produced and used even before, but this particular model is produced since 1969. Mine produced in 1994, as you can see here on the grip. However, there is no other differences from the one produced in 1969. Scabbard is produced of brown leather, I would say light brown leather, and due to the sun impact, oil, grease, mud and dirt, it turns to brown, but originally it is light brown. And now you see earlier model produced before 1969 for comparison. And of course, USGI machetes were also used. Few words about some additional equipment, and first of all, it is of course poncho, good old rubberized poncho which helps you to survive all types of the Vietnamese rain. Poncho liner. In late 60s, early 70s, it was produced in RDL camouflage pattern. Olive USGI towel. This one is original Vietnam era towel. Angle light. This one is correct Vietnam era angle light, and this one is a version with fencing, which is post-war and unfortunately not correct for the Vietnam War reenactment. and also zipper lighter. This one is modern production, but pretty similar to the standard one, and looks like it needs gas. US Army compass, XM28 and M17 gas masks, insect repellent known as bug juice. Also private could have and commander should have military watch. This one is the replica of the Benrus military watch. Benrus were in production since 1965. However, during the Vietnam War there were several models of military watches in use and certain civilian models as well. It was popular to modify military wristwatches by adding Air Force compass to them. Identification tags or dog tags. This is how the US Army late 60s dog tags look like. Basically, there are a few standard changes through the war, and also standards were different between the branches. So Marines had their standards while US Army had their own. Despite the fact that dog tag silencers were introduced as early as 1944, after the Second World War this idea was abandoned, and in Korea and Vietnam dog tags did not have silencers, so they usually were either taped together to prevent this noise, or one was carried in the boot. So since late 60s, US Army dog tags had following information: soldier's last name, soldier's first name, soldier's social security number, blood type, and religion. In my case, Eastern Orthodox. Next element is rucksack. In our case, this is tropical rucksack, and actually they were often seen used by officers. And lightweight rucksack was also used in 1st Cavalry Division. Lightweight rucksack looks pretty similar to tropical, basically it is its predecessor. It is also made of nylon, it has one main compartment and 3 outer pockets, but distinct feature of the lightweight rucksack was large aluminum frame. While tropical rucksack has smaller and thinner X-shaped frame. However, it looks like that aluminum tubular frame was more popular, since there are pictures of tropical rucksack mounted to that frame. Few words about firearms. In my case, this is an Airsoft replica of the M16A1 made by Classic Army. And again, this is just an Airsoft replica, not a real firearm, YouTube. And I use it with canvas sling, which was originally designed for M1 carbine. However, it was also used with M16 in Vietnam. But the most common sling of the Vietnam War was this sling, which is pretty similar but made of nylon. And also by the end of the Vietnam War, I would say early 70s, new silent sling was introduced. Silent sling is basically black nylon sling, which you could see in my video about the Grenada invasion. Also XM177E1 carbine was used, M60 machine gun, also known as PIG, M79 grenade launcher, also known as Blooper, M203 underbarrel grenade launcher, which was used in Vietnam since 1969. XM21 rifle, which is marksman modification of M14, various US Army shotguns, M1911A1 pistols, which we discussed earlier, miscellaneous smoke, fragmentation and phosphor grenades. Now let's see how it all looks together. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. Subscribe to my channel, share this video with friends, like, comment, and if you want to help channel financially, links are in the description. See you next time.